Ancient strategy, modern sales, one usable line per episode.
Last time, we learned that logic loses when safety is low, that the smartest argument fails if the room doesn't feel safe. Today, why the harder you try to convince someone, the faster you lose them. I spent 45 minutes in a meeting last week. The prospect had concerns, fair ones, so I addressed every single one, point by point, evidence after evidence.
And by the end,
she said she needed more time, but her tone said something else. It said, "You've exhausted me. By the end of this episode, you'll understand why convincing costs more than you think, and what to do instead." Here's what I was taught. If someone has objections, overcome them. If they're not convinced, bring more proof. If they hesitate, push through the hesitation.
And what does that create?
A conversation that feels like a courtroom. I'm the lawyer, they're the jury, and the longer I argue, the more tired they get.
Because convincing has a hidden cost. Every minute you spend persuading is a minute they spend defending. And defense is exhausting.
So I'm wearing them down.
You think you're building momentum, but you're building fatigue. And fatigue people don't say yes. They say, "Let me think about it." Which means no. Think about why convincing feels necessary. You believe the gap between where they are and where they should be can be closed with information. More data, more examples, more proof.
And it can't.
Information closes knowledge gaps. It doesn't close trust gaps. When someone isn't convinced, the problem is rarely that they don't understand. It's that they don't feel safe enough to move.
So convincing is solving the wrong problem, again.
It's solving an information problem when the real issue is emotional. And every argument you stack makes the emotional gap wider. Hold this. We'll connect it to Sun Tzu.
That explains something. The prospects I've pushed hardest are the ones who went cold. Not because my solution was wrong. Because the conversation felt wrong.
Convincing changes the dynamic. You're no longer a partner exploring a problem. You're an advocate defending a position. And the moment they feel that shift, they stop collaborating and start resisting. Sun Tzu wrote about this in the chapter on waging war. He said, "No country has ever benefited from prolonged warfare. A long campaign, even a victorious one, drains the treasury and dulls the army."
So the campaign itself is the cost.
Exactly. Every hour spent convincing is an hour of campaign. And the resources you're spending, time, energy, goodwill, don't come back. Even if you win the argument, you spent the trust.
You win the point but lose the relationship.
Sun Tzu's warning is clear. Quick resolution preserves resources. Prolonged effort destroys them. Even in victory. The same applies to every sales conversation where you're working too hard to persuade.
So what does convincing actually cost?
3 things, and they compound. First, time. Not just yours, theirs. Every minute of persuasion is a minute they're sitting in discomfort. And people remember discomfort longer than they remember data.
Second,
trust. Every time you push past their hesitation, you're telling them, "My agenda matters more than your pace." That's a withdrawal from the trust account. And most salespeople don't realize the balance is dropping.
And third,
positioning. The more you convince, the more you look like you need the deal. And the person who needs it more has less power. You shift from trusted advisor to desperate seller, one argument at a time.
So the pattern is, I try harder, they pull back, I try harder again, and with each round I lose time, trust, and position.
It's a spending cycle, and like any spending cycle, you don't notice the cost until the account is empty. The deal doesn't die in a moment. It dies over 15 minutes of well-intentioned persuasion.
So what replaces convincing?
Curiosity. Instead of proving your point, explore theirs. Instead of answering objections, ask what's behind them. The shift is from, "Let me show you why," to, "Help me understand what's in the way." Here's the reframe. Convincing feels productive. It's not. It's expensive. Every argument costs time, trust, and positioning. The alternative isn't silence. It's questions. Questions cost nothing and earn everything.
So asking is cheaper than telling.
Always. A good question does three things at once. It gives you information, it makes them feel heard, and it moves the conversation forward without resistance.
Because they're talking, not defending.
When they're talking, they're processing. When you're talking, they're waiting for a gap to object.
But what if they ask me to make the case? What if they want to be convinced?
Then make it short, one clear point. Then stop and ask, does that land for you? Give them space to own the conclusion. The best close isn't your argument. It's their agreement arrived at on their terms. Now, the one line for this episode.
Let's hear it.
Convincing burns time and trust.
That's the reminder.
When you feel the urge to stack one more argument, to address one more objection, to prove one more point, pause. Ask yourself, am I building trust or spending it? If you're spending, stop talking. Start asking.
So the line is a cost check.
Every conversation has a trust budget. Convincing spends it. Curiosity builds it. Two more tools. When you feel the urge to convince, try this instead. What would need to be true for this to feel right?
That puts the answer in their hands.
It tells them, I'm not here to push. I'm here to understand what moves you. And when people feel understood, they move themselves.
And the second?
After you've made one clear point, say this: I'd rather you take your time than feel rushed. What questions are still open?
That's giving them space instead of filling it.
And space is where decisions happen, not in the noise of your next argument.
3 tools. One that names the cost. Convincing burns time and trust. One that invites their truth. What would need to be true? And one that creates space. What questions are still open?
All protecting the same resource, trust. Let's lock them in.
Here's my takeaway. Convincing feels like progress, but it's actually spending time, trust, and positioning. The harder I push, the more I lose. The fix isn't better arguments. It's better questions.
Keep going.
Sun Tzu warned that prolonged warfare drains even the winner. In sales, prolonged convincing drains the relationship. Quick resolution, through curiosity, not force, preserves everything. The principle, curiosity builds trust. Convincing spends it.
Drill zone. Come back here before your next objection handling session. You're in a meeting. The prospect pushes back. Your instinct says address every concern. What do you tell yourself?
Convincing burns time and trust.
Again, like you've already decided to ask instead of argue.
Convincing burns time and trust.
Good. Now the redirect.
What would need to be true for this to feel right?
And the space maker.
What questions are still open?
The sequence. They push back. First, internal reset. Convincing burns time and trust. Second, explore. What would need to be true? Third, create space. What questions are still open? Then let them arrive at the answer.
Reset, explore, space. Let them arrive.
This week's test. One conversation where you'd normally keep arguing. Instead, make your point once. Then ask one question. See what happens when you stop convincing.
Just one point and one question.
That's all. The silence after will do more work than your next 10 arguments.
Which tool should I try first?
Whichever fits the moment. A. Convincing burns time and trust. B. What would need to be true for this to feel right? Or C. What questions are still open? Drop your pick in the comments. I read every one.
What's next?
Why control is not persuasion, and what happens when you try to steer people instead of serving them. Same calm tone, one usable line.
Ancient strategy, modern sales, one usable line per episode.